This video, we're going to be talking about setting goals for 2021, and I'm going to be giving you my 3-step framework on how you can actually achieve those goals. If you're new to my channel, my name is Dr. Tosin. I do videos on healthcare, fitness. I've got podcasts on around the same topics, and I have a family lifestyle vlog that I do as well. And I also talk about productivity, especially with what's going on in 2021. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. It should be done somewhere down on your left there, and hit the notification button for you to get up-to-date videos whenever I post them. I try to be posting regularly this month. That's one of my New Year resolutions. So talking about New Year resolutions, we are all in 2021. 2020 was evidently a tough year for everyone. We all went through a lot of uncertainty with the COVID-19. It's still ongoing at the moment. Even got the new mutant strain virus out. Anyway, enough of COVID for the moment. So if you were like me and you set your goals in 2020, a long list of things you wanted to achieve, maybe personal growth goals, financial goals, the likes, sometime somewhere around probably February or March, you probably threw all those out the window. And most of us, I'm sure the goal was just to stay alive, really. But good thing we've all come to this part, and if we're making it and you're watching this video, I think one thing we all have to show is gratitude for just being alive and coming through the turmoil and the uncertainty of 2020. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how you can achieve your goals for 2021. A lot of videos are going to come out, and everything is probably more than likely going to be based around methodology, how to do this, 3 steps to do that, 7 effective tips to do this, or certain SMART goals. And everybody, well, most people, we all set goals in 2021, New Year resolutions as we like to call them, and we start trying to achieve them. But we all find out that somewhere down the line, if not 77 to, I think the statistics states that about 70 to 80% of people would have broken their New Year resolution or goals before the end of February. Startling figure. So in this video, I'm going to try and set out a framework that you can use to help stay steady to your goals, achieve the goals, or even set them if you do not know what those goals are. It's interesting, I came across an article I was reading, I think it was a Change Or Die article by the author Alan Deutschman, where he cited the Dean of the Medical School of Johns Hopkins University at the time. I think it was Dr. Edward Miller. Dr. Miller had done a study on a group of individuals who had major heart attack and had to undergo life-saving heart bypass surgery, and all of them were given the option to change their lifestyle and get better by making lifestyle changes that will prevent them from having further heart attacks. Following them down the line, 2 years later, only 10% of them had actually gone to implement the changes, despite knowing that if they kept on going the way they were going, they would suffer a second heart attack, which would be possibly more fatal. Only 10 people made the change. Only 10% of people made the change. And the question you keep asking yourself, why is that? Even though people know that they need to make changes to their lifestyle, their finances, their discipline, they do not go ahead and make those changes. So the reason is not that they do not have the methods and the methodology in place. It's other things before that. And that's where I start with number 1, the mindset. Looking at mindset, or define mindset as your attitudes and assumptions as to what you believe for yourself or in the world in general, in any field. Could be health, relationships, finances. And in mindset, I break it down into 3 categories from what I've learned. What do you believe is possible? What do you believe you're capable of? And what do you believe you deserve? Because you can believe it's possible for you to be shredded and for people to lose weight and become fit for a friend, but do you believe you are capable of doing the same thing? Do you believe you deserve it, for instance? I try and focus on a bit of more health goals. Or for instance, if you go down the route of financial goals, do you believe you are capable of making or doubling your income in the next 1 year? If you believe it's possible, that's one thing, but do you believe you are capable of doing that particular thing? And do you believe you deserve it? So mindset comes into these three categories, and people usually fall short in one of these three when building their mindset. They might believe something is possible in one area, but they may believe they are not capable of doing that. It might not be a conscious belief, it might be subconscious. So in working on your mindset, you have to sit down and go deep and ask yourself the questions: how do you see your mindset and your framework of things where you are at the moment? And how can you work on your mindset? I'll be giving tips and tricks and what you can do towards the end of the video. So the second part of my 3-step framework to help achieve your goals will be motivation. Now, I've talked before about the mindset, and with the mindset, we've got to have motivation with this. Now, what's motivation? When I'm referring to motivation, I'm talking about what gets you going. Defined in other words, people have used terms like what's your purpose, what's your reason, what's your why. And I'm not giving it, I'm talking about the general purpose, your general life purpose, although that would be a good thing, but what's your purpose in relation specifically to the goal or target you are setting? And sometimes there's a formula I heard for that worked for motivation, and that could be your purpose multiplied by energy that you have, and with you taking what we call small simple steps. So like it was said, it's a P times E times S3. And I got this when I was listening to one of the teachings by a person that I follow called Jim Quick. So P times E times S3. So essentially you have to have a purpose, and even with the purpose you have to have a bit of energy and drive to it. So whatever your energy level is at that time sometimes dictates how things go. And if sometimes you do not have the energy to achieve things, you have to do it in small simple steps. The third step in my 3-step framework to help you achieve and keep to your goals is the methods. So the first time, we talked about the mindset, then we also talked about your motivation. So now the third M is the methods. For the methods, what I used to sit down and actually, just to reframe, I've stopped calling them goals per se for the year. What I start with, I use the word aspirations. My aspirations for the year, for instance, is how I like to frame them, because I can have big aspirations and chunk them down into tiny goals, which is the type of technique I'd probably want to use, and I'll probably be advising there. So have big aspirations, then chunk them down into tiny goals for the year. And I'd like to break them down into sections, and this I took from a chap called Brian Tracy, where for your aspirations or goals, like you break them down into different sections. So what are my aspirations as a father and a family man in relation to my wife, my kids and my other family, my siblings? And what are my aspirations regarding my health and fitness for the year? What are my aspirations regarding my finance? What are my aspirations regarding my career? And what are my aspirations regarding myself in relation to my community, my social network? These are some of the categories. You can get your categories if you want, but I break them into categories, then pick those particular areas, list out each of the aspirations. Then from the aspirations, you can now sit down and pick it up and chunk it down into tiny goals. So if I've got the aspiration in health and fitness, for instance, to be healthy and achieve good health this year, I now have to have specific goals for those. For instance, one of them will be, I want to make sure that I get my 5K run down to less than 30 minutes or 25 minutes, or pick a goal that to achieve that, I'll make sure I run the Spartan race, the Spartan sprint in less than 1 hour 10 minutes. I think the last one I did was 1 hour 15, I can't remember anyway. But those are specific targets. Or maybe break it down to simpler steps. Do 1 push-up every day, maybe to get to bigger ones. But that's the methodology behind it. So BJ Fogg has this book called The Tiny Habits that breaks habits down into the tiniest possible action you are most likely to succeed at. So for instance, if your target was to make sure you do push-ups, for instance, you can start by doing just 1 push-up. Or maybe if it's that you want to be flossing your teeth, I think that common example he used is just floss 1 tooth. We all know that when you start flossing 1 tooth, you're not going to floss just 1. So simple things like that, and break it down into achievable steps. To also point out, when setting your aspirations and goals, we tend to want to set goals, set the bar a bit low, but from time to time, I always tell people you've got to set what we call stretch goals, goals that can push you or pull you to achieve greater things. So 50% of your goals and targets should be stretch goals, goals that are going to take you out of your comfort zone. That's the way to set it, but you still have to break it down into small, simple, achievable steps for you to be able to stick to them. Although you do not want your goals and aspirations to be extremely intimidating, but you also want to have things that can stretch you and take you a bit out of the comfort zone. And while doing that, you always have to break those down into small, actionable steps. So that's about it. So talking about my 3-step framework, number 1 was mindset. Work on your mindset. Who are you? What's your mindset around things? Number 2 was your motivation. Remember, the formula we used for that was that P times E times S3. So what's your purpose, your why, or your reason, whichever one you want to use. E is for energy. What's your energy level at that time? And S3 stands for small, simple steps. Chunk it down into small, simple steps. And in the methods as well, we've talked about breaking it down into categories if you want to listen to the categories, and use small, achievable steps. I keep coming back to the small, achievable steps. And always remember, habits are emotional things, or goals are emotional things. Essentially, when we come out and set New Year resolutions, goals, aspirations, most of it is centered around behavior change. We're all trying to change some form of behavior to achieve a different result, a different outcome. For a behavior change to stick, it has to be enjoyable. One, it has to be something that you have framed yourself to want to do, and it has to be something that you will achieve success at, no matter how small, which is why we start with doing small things first to build on them. Thank you very much, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe button is somewhere down on the left or right, I'm not sure which one. Hit the notification button and leave your comments down below. What steps are you using, what frameworks are you using to help achieve your goals? If there's anything else you think I should add to this or feel may work better, I'm always open to comments, and we can have a constructive discussion. Catch you next time.